Hello, everyone. It's that time of year again. Christmas is coming up fast. And I love Christmas music, and I thought it'd be interesting to find out about the songs that the Beatles did for Christmas because they could be very festive guys. So let us begin with the Beatles records for Christmas when they were a band. So the Beatles made flexi disc for their fans each Christmas from December 1963 to December 1969. And the records were made for their UK and US fans that were in their official fan club. An LP compilation of all 7 titled From Then to You in the UK and the Beatles Christmas album in the US were sent out in 1970. The idea came when the fan club realized it couldn't respond to fan letters in a timely manner because of the high volume of the letters that were flooding in at that time. According to Wikipedia, the records included the Beatles' messages of thanks to loyal Beatle people, along with skits and Christmas carols and original compositions. None of the original recordings have been subject to general release until a vinyl box set of all the records was distributed in December of 2017. A version of Christmas Time is Here Again, an original composition which appeared in edited form on the 1967 record, gained an unofficial release in 1995 as part of the Beatles Anthology project. So first of all, we have the 1963 record, which was recorded October 17th, 1963. Location, Studio 2, EMI Studios, Abbey Road. Writer was Tony Barrow, producer Tony Barrow. Issued on December 6, 1963, and it was 5 minutes long. So there were several renditions of Good King Wenceslas, individual messages from the Four, ending with a closing chorus of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Ringo, and this offering, as well as the 1964, was scripted by the Beatles press officer Tony Barrow. He instigated the Christmas message program. An edited version of this recording was sent to members of the Beatles' American fan club in December 1964. So now we have the 1964 Christmas record. It was recorded on the 28th of October in 1964. Location, Studio 2, EMI Studios, Abbey Road. Writer, Tony Barrow. Producer, Tony Barrow. Issued on December 18th, 1964. And this record was only 3 minutes and 58 seconds long. The song Jingle Bells is sung, followed by an individual messages to the fans. John Lennon mocks the script by making it obvious that he's reading from a prepared text. When Paul McCartney asks him if he wrote it himself, he says, "No, it's somebody's bad handwriter." And then John continues, "It's been a busy year. Beatle pedals one way or another, but it's been a great year too. You fans have seen to that, page 2. Thanks a lot, folks, and happy Christmas and a merry goo year. Cribble, maybe." Finishing up the record is a brief rendition of the traditional song, "Oh, Can You Wash Your Father's Shirt?" Another Beatles record was not sent to the American fans. Instead, U.S.-based fans received an edited version of the Beatles' Christmas record, which had been sent to the British fan club members in 1963. Also, as opposed to using flexi disc, the U.S. fan club sent the message in a trifold cardboard mailer, with the record embedded in one of the flaps of the cardboard. Now we have the 1965, the third Beatle Christmas record. It was recorded on November the 8th, 1965. Location, Studio 2, EMI Studios, Abbey Road. Writer, Tony Barrow and the Beatles. Producer, Tony Barrow, and it was issued on December the 17th, 1965. According to Wikipedia, several off-key, a cappella version of Yesterday are placed throughout the record alongside Lennon's Happy Christmas to Ya, Listeners, Auld Lang Syne, which briefly morphs into an impression of Barry Maguire's Eve of Destruction, then begins singing the Four Tops. It's the same old song, but they stop after George tells them they can't continue because the song is copyrighted. George didn't want to have a lawsuit. And then there's the original poem entitled Christmas Comes But Once a Year. Well, the poor American members of the Beatles' U.S. fan club did not receive this or any Christmas flexi disc in 1965. Rather, they received a black and white postcard with a photo of the Fab Four and the message, "Season's Greetings, Paul, Ringo, George, John." The Beatle Bulletin, the publication of the U.S. fan club, explained in its April 1966 edition that the tape arrived too late to prepare the record in time for Christmas. And this record was 6 minutes and 20 seconds long. Then we have in 1966, Everywhere It's Christmas, recorded to the 25th of November, 1966. Location, Dick James Music. Writer, The Beatles. Producer George Martin. Issued the 16th of December, 1966. Okay, this record was 6 minutes and 36 seconds long, and this was recorded between the Strawberry Field sections. The usual greetings and thanks gave way to Pantomime. It's a theme collection of original songs and comic skits. The songs include Everywhere It's Christmas, Orawana, and Please Don't Bring Your Banjo Back. And McCartney plays the piano. And the sketches performed include Podgy the Bear and Jasper and Felpin Mansions. So I guess there wasn't enough time for the U.S. fans to get the flexi records, so they received a postcard again with the message on one side and a short version of the Beatle Bulletin on the other, with enough room for a mailing label and postage. Then we have the 1967 Christmas Time Is Here Again, recorded 28th of November, 1967, location, Studio 3, EMI Studios, London. Writer, The Beatles. Producer, George Martin. Issued the 15th of December, 1967, and the recording time was 6 minutes and 6 seconds. So the idea for this was that several groups were auditioning for a BBC radio show, and Christmas Time Is Here Again pops in throughout the record. And the Beatles played a multitude of characters, including game show contestants, aspiring musicians, plenty of jam jars by the Ravelers, and actors in a radio drama, Theatre Hour. And at the end, Lennon reads a poem, When Christmas Time Is Over. So while the UK fans received a flexi disc in the elaborate sleeve, North American fans received a postcard similar to that of 1966, and the cover sleeve was designed by John Lennon and Julian Lennon and Ringo Starr. Now we have the 1968 Beatles record, recorded on November-December of 1968. Location was various, and then the writer with the Beatles. Producer Kenny Everett. Issued the 20th of December 1968, and the total record time was 7 minutes and 48 seconds. According to Wikipedia.com, the first Beatles Christmas fan club disc to be recorded by individual Beatles separately, the 1968 offering is a collage of odd noises, musical snippets, and individual messages. There's McCartney songs Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, and that's featured along with Lennon's poems Jock and Yano, and Once Upon a Pool Table. Also notable is a rendition of Nowhere Man by the ukulele playing Tiny Tim, which Harrison recorded in New York. Also included is a sped-up snippet of the Beatles' own Helter Skelter and a brief snippet of Perry and Kingsley's Baroque Hoedown, which was used 3 years earlier in Disneyland's Main Street Electoral Parade. Obla-dee, obla-da, Your Blues and Birthday are also heard in the background for part of the message. And the dialogue and songs for the flexi disc were organized and edited together by DJ and friend of the Beatles, Kenny Everett. Well, better late than never, the U.S. fans got a flexi disc for Christmas in 1968, but it came in a modified version of the 1967 UK sleeve. In 1969, the seventh Beatle record, recorded November-December 1969, location various, writer The Beatles, producer Kenny Everett, and it was issued the 19th of December 1969. Total recording time, 7 minutes and 39 seconds. Well, by then the band had broken up, and so the record was recorded separately, and there was a long part where John and Yoko were on their Tittenhurst Park estate, and they went around saying, "What will Santa give me?" And George Harrison and Ringo Starr made a brief appearance on the record, and Ringo was plugging his recent movie, The Magic Christian. Paul McCartney sings his original ad-lib, "This is to wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas," starting at 1 minute 30 seconds. At the tail end of Starr's song, the guitar solos from the end are heard, followed by Ono interviewing Lennon. And Wikipedia states for the first time the North American and UK album sleeve jackets were identical. The North American version of the flexi disc had an elaborate collage of the Beatles' faces on it, drawn by Ringo, while the rear album sleeve contained stick figure scribbles made by his son Zach Starkey. So now we come to the individual Beatles, and John Lennon was the first one to come up with the Christmas song, and it was, of course, Happy Christmas, War is Over. So leave it to John to not create a traditional themed Christmas song, no reindeer, no mistletoe. Instead, it was a song about overcoming fear and to wish for war to be over. According to Songfacts.com, John Lennon and Yoko Ono wrote this in their New York City hotel room, and recorded it during the evening of October 28th in the morning of 29th of 1971 at the record plant in New York. It was released in the U.S. for Christmas but didn't chart. The next year it was released in the U.K. where it did much better, charting at number 4. Eventually the song became a Christmas classic in America, but it took a while. Before they wrote the song, John and Yoko had done a lot of things to promote peace during the years in the 60s and 70s, and it was in 1971 John decided to write an anti-war Christmas song. He said he was sick of White Christmas. So the children's voices are the Harlem Community Choir, who were brought in to sing on this track, and they're credited on the single along with Yoko and the Plastic Ono Band. The song was originally released on clear green vinyl with Yoko Ono's Listen, the Snow is Falling as the B-side. At the beginning of the song, 2 whispers can be heard. Yoko whispers, "Happy Christmas, Kyoko," and that was Yoko's daughter that she had with Anthony Cox. And John whispers, "Happy Christmas, Julian," and that was John's son with Cynthia. So Phil Spector was asked to help produce the song with John and Yoko, and 4 guitarists were brought in to play acoustic guitars. Hugh McCracken, who had recently played with Paul McCartney on album Ram, Charles Osborne, Stu Scharf, and Teddy Irwin. According to Richard Williams, who was reporting on the session for Uncut, when Lennon taught them the song, he asked them to pretend it's Christmas. When one of the guitarists said he was Jewish, John told him, "Well, pretend it's your birthday then." So Jim Keltner played the drums and the sleigh bells. Nicky Hopkins played chimes and glockenspiel. Keltner and Hopkins were part of the Lennon's Plastic Ono Band, and a third member, Klaus Wuren, was supposed to play bass on the track, but got stuck on a flight from Germany. And one of the guitarists was brought in for the session to cover the bass, but nobody seemed to remember who that person was. So the song didn't appear on an album until 1975. It was included on Lennon's Shaved Fish singles compilation. Most Christmas songs are compiled with other songs of the season, but Shaved Fish listeners got to hear it year-round. The chords and the melody borrowed heavily from the traditional English folk standard skewball, in particular the 1963 version entitled Stewball by Peter, Paul and Mary. So if that wasn't bad enough, when Phil Spector first heard the line, "So This Is Christmas," Phil Spector said it was rhythmically identical to the Paris Sisters' 1961 hit, "I Love How You Love Me," which he produced. But I guess Phil didn't have a problem with it because the song was released. So now we come to George Harrison's Christmas song. So George Harrison was the second former Beatle to produce a Christmas song. It was written as a New Year's Eve sing-along and released in December 1974 on his album Dark Horse. In a couple of George Harrison biographies, it's thought that George came up with the song as an attempt to emulate the success of 2 glam rock anthems from 1973 and 1974 holiday season, which were Merry Christmas Everybody by Slade and Wizards' I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. So George came up with the lyrics from engravings in his house at Friar Park. "Ring out the old, ring in the new," which he took from the carving to the left of the fireplace, and "Ring out the false, ring in the true," from the one to the right. And in his 1980 autobiography, I Me Mine, Harrison credits the English poet Lord Tennyson as the original source for these lines. And then the words for the song's middle 8, "Yesterday, today was tomorrow, and tomorrow, today will be yesterday," came from another pair of inscriptions from the crisp time at Friar Park. So Harrison found these lines in what he called the garden building, carved in stone around 2 matching windows. The only other lyrics in Ding Dong, are the song's title repeated 4 times to serve as a chorus, and it's sung in the imitation of a clock chiming. The chorus lyrics combined with the message of the verse lend the composition an obvious New Year's theme. Harrison later described the song as very optimistic and suggested, instead of getting stuck in a rut, everybody should try ringing out the old and ringing in the new. People sing about it, but they never apply it to their lives. And according to Wikipedia.com, the song's "Ring Out the Old, Ring in the New" refrain was an invited interpretation as Harrison distancing himself as a past member of the Beatles and as a singer farewelling his first marriage to Pattie Boyd. As on much of the Dark Horse album, Harrison's vocals on the recording were hampered by a throat condition, due partly to having overextended himself on business projects, such as his recently launched record label Dark Horse Records. It was recorded at his Friar Park studio, and the track includes musical contributions from Tom Scott, Ringo Starr, Alvin Lee, Ron Wood, and Jim Keltner. Ding Dong wasn't the smash hit that Harrison hoped for. It was only moderately successful. The single peaked at number 38 in Britain and number 36 on the American Billboard Hot 100. Jim Miller of Rolling Stone condemned Harrison for releasing an album with his voice blown and his apparent disdain toward the Beatles' legacy. He dismissed the song as a raspy stab at Auld Lang Syne. So now we have Paul McCartney's Christmas song. So Paul was the third former Beatle to release a Christmas song, and this was recorded in 1980. He recorded the song when he was doing McCartney 2, and Wonderful Christmas Time was released November 1979. According to Wikipedia.com, Wonderful Christmas Time was added as a bonus track on the 1993 CD reissue of Back to the Egg, and on the 2011 Special Edition and Deluxe Edition reissue of McCartney 2. A longer, unedited version was also included on the Deluxe Edition. The track was also mixed in the 5.1 surround sound for the inclusion on the 2007 DVD release, The McCartney Years. Well, the members of Wings band didn't help out on the song since Paul was working on his own at that point. They did show up in the promotional video, which was filmed at the Fountain Inn in Ashurst, West Sussex. It also includes footage filmed at the Hippodrome Theatre in Eastbourne, where McCartney rehearsed his 1979 UK tour. Wings performed the song during their 1979 tour of the UK. So Paul McCartney did the vocals, the keyboards, synthesizers, guitars, bass, drums, percussion, jingle bells, and production. FarOutMagazine.com stated, it was while he was doing the sessions on McCartney 2, Paul stumbled on the idea of writing a Christmas song. His former bandmate John Lennon had already recorded one of his own, Happy Christmas War is Over, back in 1971. Unlike that song, McCartney relied heavily on synthesizers and light silliness for Wonderful Christmas Time. Since he was on his own, when McCartney called out the choir of children to sing in the song, he was actually overdubbing his voice to emulate the choir. McCartney rounded out the single release by recording an instrumental reggae version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for the B-side. Last but not least, Ringo came up with not only a Christmas song, but a Christmas album. It was entitled I Want to Be Santa Claus. Wikipedia states that Ringo Starr and musical partner Mark Hudson composed Dear Santa and Christmas Eve in July 1998 at Starr's Surrey residence. The pair of songs were recorded a few months later between 14 and 16 of September in the UK. Follow-up sessions did not commence until March the 8th, 1999 at What in the Studios in Los Angeles, where the tracks Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Little Drummer Boy, Christmas Time is Here Again, and further work on Dear Santa were taped that day. Christmas Time is Here Again was originally recorded by the Beatles in 1967 for their annual Christmas record and members of the fan club. Well, featured on these tracks were Starr, Hudson, Jim Cox, and Steve Dudis. Recorded throughout 1999 between Starr and Hudson, I Want to Be Santa Claus, which is composed of half and half traditional songs and new originals, was made in several studios in the U.S. and the U.K. And then they had their families joining in it, and including two notable celebrity guests, Aerosmith's Joe Perry and Eagles member Timothy B. Smith. Jeff Lynne also sings backing vocals on Come On Christmas, Come On, I Want to Be Santa Claus, and Christmas Time is Here Again. The final sessions for the album were held on the 8th and 9th of September in What in the Studios. Mixing took place at the AMN Studios, Los Angeles, and Sterling Sound, New York. So that record was all over the place. The album was released on October 1999 by Mercury Records. The album wasn't a commercial success because Mercury didn't promote the album. Ringo left the label because of it. Because it had really little sales to show for it. Well, the Beatles must have loved the holidays because they did a special little record for their fans, always at the Christmas season, to show the fans their appreciation. I got a CD of the Christmas recordings by the Beatles, and it was neat to hear their youthful enthusiasm and their sense of fun. They enjoy being together and creating music together. So I'm surprised that John was the first Beatle to do a Christmas song, and he came up with a unique Christmas song that was really a peace song, which was what I guess Christmas should be about. It was funny when he said he was tired of White Christmas because Bing Crosby was one of his favorite singers. So George Harrison was trying to find success with a Christmas song after hearing success from two glam rock bands with their songs, Merry Christmas Everybody by Slade and the Wizards' I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. George got inspiration for the lyrics from verses that were in his house, which is cool. I suppose it can't really be considered a Christmas song, but since it's like Old Lang Syne, it should be in the holiday rotation. A new year, a new beginning. So Paul was in his recording studio working on his album McCartney 2 when he started to create his own Christmas song. He created this album when he was considering what to do about the band Wings. The band Wings did appear in his video of the song, which was nice. And lastly, Ringo outdid his mates by releasing a Christmas album instead of just a single. Ringo's album was recorded in different studios, but it turned into a family affair with family members joining in on the songs. It seemed like the record would be a great success, but Mercury, the company, didn't try and promote the album, so it fizzled out. And Ringo was so upset about it that he left Mercury soon after. Okay, Beatle fans out there, you have to pick a favorite Christmas song by John, Paul, George, or Ringo, and which one would you pick? So my favorite song would have to be Wonderful Christmas Time. When the song first came out, I really didn't care for it because of the synthesizers, but a few years ago I began to love the song. It's so festive and happy, and it gets one into the holiday spirit. So I hope everybody enjoyed the video. If you did, if you could give it a thumbs up, it would be greatly appreciated. And I wish everybody a great day today. And tune in again soon for another episode of the Beatles Forever. Thank you. Bye.